What happens when medicine meets social media? Some doctors are leaving medicine altogether, while others are building careers online. From TikTok drama to burnout to the question of whether or not we've
I think we've
completely.
lost the plot on social media.
Welcome to Scrubbin's episode on social media and medicine featuring Dr. Devin Barsallo. Welcome to this week's episode of Scrubbed In. Let's just be honest right now. I feel like the medical internet and my entire medical feed has been a bit chaotic the past few weeks. From match day posts absolutely going viral. Congrats to the amazing med students that applied this cycle. And also med students that have gotten in trouble for certain types of content, physicians calling each other out line publicly, and people questioning whether or not doctors should even be influencers, and even attendings leaving medicine for full-time social media positions. Like, genuinely, what is going on? And more importantly, what is the role of social media in medicine at the moment? Is it helping us? Is it hurting us? Or is it going to completely change what it means to be a doctor? So, where do we draw the line? In today's episode, this is something that I've honestly been wanting to do for a while, a real honest conversation about social media in medicine. Today, I'm joined by Devin, a dermatology resident, content creator, and someone who has genuinely been so involved with mentoring pre-meds and medical students, and honestly, just anyone looking for life advice at this point. I've learned so much from his content, and we actually met in person at a Scrubbed In event in Chicago, which was such a full circle moment. And I really wanted Devin on because he brings such a unique perspective navigating medicine as a resident, a creator, and also a member of the LGBTQ plus community. And last time, Devin, I saw you, you had something on your hand. So we definitely need updates about that too. So welcome to Scrubbed In. I'm so happy to have you on. I know that there's so much more to your story that I just shared. So if you want to tell me a little bit more about yourself and all the listeners who don't know who you are, just a little bit about your journey into medicine, how you got started with social media, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so based on what you said originally, I do think sometimes we think a lot about social media in medicine, but it really like most of the attendings I talk to are like so far removed from it. Like it feels very distant to the reality of a lot of physicians. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes we really do focus a lot on it, but I don't know how much it impacts like the greater medical sphere as of now. Um, with that said, hi, my name's Devin. I'm a first gen college student, first gen med student. My parents are from Ecuador. I knew I wanted to be a physician since I was very, very young. And I just kind of like grinded to do that. I went to med school in Cleveland, absolutely loved it. I'm from Jersey and I'm like now a Midwest princess. I want to stay here for my whole life. Currently doing my intern year in Chicago and then moving to the state of Michigan for dermatology. So I'm really excited about that. In terms of starting on content, I have always posted on like social media, like Instagram, like just like pictures and things like that. Um, and I like didn't have TikTok during med school because I honestly was like, I'm one of those people that I get like trapped into the loop of it and I'll like be binge for like 2 hours. But I was in that phase where like I just graduated med school and then I had like 2 months before intern year. So I was just like, let me download TikTok, let me like talk about like my experiences in med school. Um, and yeah, and then I really do love like research and advocacy. So that's like some of the content I also spoke about. Um, and some of my views can be polarizing to some people, but I actually, speaking to my original point was a lot of academics actually reached out to me and were like, thank you for speaking out about this because a lot of students are on social media and they think like research is more important than it actually is. Like the number of publications you have, like honestly don't matter. Especially in fields like dermatology, neurosurgery, ortho, like these small specialties, people really overestimate how much it matters versus like the mentorship that you can get from certain research or just like other experiences. So I really do like demystifying the process a little for students, and like having them avoid certain like scammy organizations and like you should never pay for mentorship, like point blank period, because I see a lot of students who just get into med school, start mentorship organizations, who get into residency, start a consulting company. Um, and as an intern myself, I have no like real impact on a student like matching at a certain institution. Let's say you really want to be in Chicago, like I would recommend you reach out to like faculty and the specialty you want to at the programs in Chicago, and they'll give you real tailored advice for that specific program because there's no like one specific feedback you can give.
Right. No,
Like
I feel like that's so refreshing to hear that. I think especially right now you hear about like that one med student I think that posted saying that, oh my gosh, it's my first year of med school and I already am on like 32 research pubs. And you're just like, oh my gosh, like the imposter syndrome is insane. And especially for the really competitive specialties, I know that even some of like the away rotations will ask you like how many first author publications do you have? And you're like, what? Like, is this like a numbers game or is this actually like, are you competent and are you an actual human being to become like a physician that actually cares for your patients? So it is really nice that you mentioned that portion. What was like your advice for the universities that did reach out to you asking about like your take on social media versus like the emphasis on publications and like the numbers game?
yeah, well, my basic opinion on it is speaking to a lot of program directors, specifically for dermatology, they do want a first author publication,
Hmm.
but it's one to three. Like three is the max that I heard from, and it's like a top 15 program at a big academic university. So usually trying to attract people who do want to do academics. So that makes sense. But I'm doing my intern year at a community hospital. Some people there are still doing research and they're doing really high quality research, but it like my research has less of an impact on my day-to-day job as an intern than like all the community service and advocacy that I did, the fact that I can speak two languages and like really relate to my patients. So I think highlighting any strengths that you have other than like it just doesn't have to be research because then at a certain point everybody has a very similar application. And I hear
Right.
a lot of students like reach out and being like, I hate research, but I'm going to do a research year, which is to me, it's very counterintuitive because if you want to take a year off to like strengthen your application, like by all means, I did the same thing. But you should do something that you're really passionate in. Like I've had friends who did Fulbrights during med school, or like even like a whole year of leadership in certain like nonprofit organizations. So there's definitely a lot of different things that you can do, and it doesn't have to be research.
Now
Uh,
that's
mhm.
really refreshing to hear. I feel like in medicine, oftentimes people are kind of aligned to this one simple like direction path that is outlined. And I feel like that path is like relatively outdated. It works in certain elements where, okay, you have the bread and butter of what you should do, like basics wise. But I feel like it's important for us to realize that everyone has different interests, everyone has different passions and stuff that they want to get involved with. And I think that adding like that element of diversity and uniqueness to medicine honestly just makes you a better physician. But this is me speaking as an M3. So, one question that I do have for you is I think you mentioned this briefly at the beginning. Did you apply to residency after you started posting on social media, or did you apply before?
So I had been posting on Instagram for like my whole life. I'm like Gen
Okay.
Z. I've just been posting since like middle school, probably too young to be on Instagram at that point. But I had like a bunch of content on Instagram and my profile was public and anyone could see it. And I thought it like really reflected who I was as a person. Like it would be like pictures of my food and like pictures of me in a Speedo and like me like being out with my friends and my family. And nothing I thought was like I thought it was like who I am. And I was like completely perfectly fine with a program seeing that. Especially because when I was on my way rotations, like I also gave the same energy that could be found on my social media. Like
Okay.
I wasn't trying to be a different person. I started posting on TikTok after match already, um, after graduation, even. Not because I didn't think, not because I thought social media would impact me negatively on the match process. I know some people have different views on that, but I think if you're posting content that's very true to who you are, um, I think that's like if you shouldn't post anything that you wouldn't want a program director to see, that you wouldn't want your medical school to see. Like I posted content like after graduation and Case Western like emails me literally all the time and like the dean of admissions has like reached out to me. Like it's like you can do content in a positive way where it's like a good reflection of your institution. So that's kind of my thought on it. I think if you do have a really large platform, sometimes that can kind of like some people might be a little more wary just because you do have this really large platform, and if you say one thing wrong, like your program director will get emailed like a bunch of things.
Oh yeah.
But if you like, I've gotten like my program director has gotten emails of things I post, and like this is very like I don't think I post anything that controversial. Like everything that I say on social media is what I would say in person. So luckily my program directors have been very, very supportive because literally like things I would say on social media is what I said on my interview. So they knew exactly who they were getting.
Did someone like reach out to your program to report content that you posted, or was it like
It was like
something?
I'm talking about dating doctors in the hospital, like extremely like I was bragging about dating doctors in the hospital. And I was just like, one, a lot of people talk about dating as
Yeah.
residents, as doctors, as med students, and I think that makes you more like a normal person. Um, but yeah, I got emailed about that, and then I got emailed um saying that like I was threatening someone in one of my videos because I was warning students not to join this like research organization that's
I
scamming.
remember that
Yeah,
post.
yeah,
Honestly, fair warning. And
yeah.
I kind of want to know your take on that. Like you mentioned that at this point, especially when you're a med student, you haven't matched yet and you're offering advice. And in general, like what's your thought about people charging for services that are rendered to help med students? And I think that I'm currently like about to start my application process, and I do hear about a lot of students, especially those applying the competitive specialties like plastics, neurosurge, derm, orthopedics, that are paying maybe like a set sum of money, a couple thousand upwards. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think it's actually worth it? Do you even deem it like beneficial? It doesn't have to be like the med student run runs. There are, you know, programs that are run by actual residents that people are utilizing. And I think the overall, it's like 50-50 that I'm hearing where it's like partially beneficial because they have the connects. But what's your thought process on that? Like, what's your take on all of that?
I think one, there's a huge conflict of interest. Like if I'm a resident and I'm helping someone on their application into the specific specialty that I'm in and I'm charging them a fee, I really can't advocate for them at my specific program because then there's a financial conflict of interest there. So one, if anything, I could think it could hinder people too. It's just like you should look at the resources at your own institution before like reaching out to other people. Especially for fees. Like my med school had a bunch of resources to help me with my application, to help me with interview prep. And I think a lot of the times people just don't know about it. So I always think like reach your like student advisory dean or whatever it is. And especially if you have a home program department that you want to apply into, like you should be tapped in there and like the residents there will help you 1,000%. Like all the residents at Case Western and Cleveland Clinic were like so helpful throughout the entire process. So I really do it like pains me when I see like someone match ENT or whatever and they're like a PGY3 and like charging students like $5,000 where it's like you could get better advice from someone at your home institution.
I will say for like the opposite side of that, and personally, I I don't know how I could. I'm applying in a field that I don't think I would necessarily want to be paying a couple thousand. I don't think it really would be necessary, but I do know some people that have used the service, and I think that like being in the Midwest and going to maybe like a smaller institution where your home program isn't as established in the field that you want to apply for residency, I see why some people could be influenced to paying that amount. It's just very unfortunate that people know that there's so many people applying into these hyper competitive fields that would be willing to pay, where it's like it's already creating this inequity that is already established within medicine. And I'm like, I don't know what to think about it.
Yeah, and I was like a cold emailer. Like if I wanted to be at a certain institution for residency, like I email like let's say you don't have a home program. I think faculty at programs that are larger are more receptive to mentor you. I remember emailing someone and they're like, you already have a great dermatology program at Case Western. Like, why specifically are you reaching out to me for like mentorship?
Mhm.
Because they already have so many mentees. And I was like, honestly, that's a great point.
Mhm.
And we've kept in contact throughout the years, but it was like, I
That's so
didn't
nice.
do research with this person. Whereas like another student that doesn't have a home department, like I think they would have been much more receptive to mentoring them. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of people get a lot of no's, and it could be like very disheartening.
Mhm.
And it's easier sometimes to just pay $5,000, but then you don't have a mentor, and then you don't have a letter of recommendation, and
Mhm.
that's really what matters in these like smaller specialties, and even in the like larger ones like internal medicine. Like it's really about
Yeah.
how strong your letter of recommendation is. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, no, circling back to like social media, I know that we're both in the Midwest, and I know that you are currently, you mentioned that you're on ICU at the moment. Do you ever feel like, depending on what rotation you're working on or what service you're working on, that social media and your presence online can impact you negatively, or you have people that are bringing it up whenever you are working? Has that ever happened, or have you ever seen social media impacting you in a way that you didn't really perceive before?
Honestly, everybody in my hospital has seen my content. Like all my co-residents, all my attendees, residents in other programs, like people have slid into my DMs trying to flirt, and they're like, "Oh, like I think you, like I know where you work, blah blah blah." So like part of it can get creepy, especially because it's like as people in medicine, you're just a public figure, even if you're not on
Hmm.
social media. Like if you Google anyone's name plus MD, like they will show up where you're a resident.
Right.
So it's really so when you're on social media, it's like very, very easy to identify like where I work.
Hmm.
Um, but honestly, all my attendings have been like so supportive about it. Like
That's
my
good.
co-residents are like, "Oh my God, you're on my For You page," blah, blah, blah. Like we were just talking about it today with one of my co-residents in the ICU. Um, so honestly, I've had no negative experiences. Like one of my attendings literally like bought me like coffee and like she wanted to talk about skincare and like blah 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 and like talking about social media and things like that. So I honestly think that my program specifically, like everyone's been super, super great. And I can't say that that's true for everywhere because I know some people may have had negative experiences with it. But I think it's 2026, and like if people are seeing me on social media, that means they're also consumers of social media.
Hmm.
So it seems a
Hmm.
little like hypocritical to kind of like judge people for being on it.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely can be very scary as like a medical student when you are trying to get great evals and also having this like presence online. And I know that there are a lot of M4s who recently matched who like shared their perspective. And I wanted to ask you, like, have you ever advised anyone like going through the application process within this past cycle on like how they should talk about social media on their application? And like, for example, I want to include that I had social media and I included on my Vislos, like for my away applications, I mentioned Scrubbed In, and I have a lot to talk about it. But what was your advice to those students that maybe like you talked about social media with?
Yeah, I think like I'd never put it on my application because it wasn't like something that I thought um like was something that I could highlight because honestly it was just like an Instagram page with like barely anything back in the day.
Mhm.
But I think now like honestly a lot of academic dermatologists have reached out to me and like literally at AAD a bunch of people came up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I've been following you on TikTok. Like I love your content. Like I think you're very like you say a lot of good points." Um I think at some programs they might, like I said, might have like a question mark about it. Um, so I haven't advised any students to include it. I haven't advised students not to include it. Like I think if it's a big part of your like career in medicine and like you do want to do like content creation, especially in a way to help people. I think your content is like amazing. You're like connecting other physicians together, med students, and it's really like a longitudinal mentoring that you're bringing to people. So I think it's a great way to highlight that. Um, and I will say, actually, I did a lot of PR for like the Latino Medical Student Association. Like I was on the national executive board, so I actually did include that I worked for like a nonprofit and like did social media for them. Actually, thinking about
Mhm.
it in retrospect, but it wasn't like my own content. It was like content
Mhm.
for a national org.
Okay,
But I
I
think
see.
you could be like, oh, I started at this organization and I do like social media to promote events, like to connect people. And I think that would be taken pretty positively. Um, Yeah.
Yeah. No, I asked my advisor about this and I was like, what's your take? Like, I know that you review applications of like residents. And he said, look, in complete honesty, some people won't like it and some may actually love it. 85% of the programs that you probably will apply to are going to see this as a positive, especially how passionate you are about impacting others with social media and connection. The other 15%, they won't like it. But do you want to practice there? Do you want to hide like, you know, something that is so valuable to you? And I was like, yeah, I guess maybe I wouldn't enjoy being at a place that wouldn't want to see this part of me. But I again, like haven't touched upon that application cycle just yet. So easier
Yeah.
said than done.
And I think you
Uh,
can tell based on this match cycle, like a bunch of social media
yeah.
people, like they all match, like for the
No,
majority of it.
literally.
So I think a lot of people like hate social media, medfluencer, things like that. And I think a lot of it is just rooted in, I don't want to say jealousy, but it's like some people in medicine just are like, I think honestly, if you're on social media, you can really like, and you have a big following, like you're really garnering attention. And I think you're probably like a likable person for people to want to
Hmm.
follow you and like you. So when you do these away rotations, like if you're the same person on social media as you are in person, like I think people are also going to like you in person.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, if you post really like salacious content, things that are like problematic, and you have really hot takes and bad takes, um, people will find offense to that. But like I said, in medicine, people like to be offended about literally everything. So that's where I think the 15%, he's right, but 85% of the people will be in support of it, especially your content.
Right.
Like I wouldn't be working.
I hope not. I hope not. I mean, I will say, I think in the field that we are pursuing, I feel like we should be expected to have a higher standard of what we are posting online. And I feel like there is a line between like your personal brand and like also professionalism in a sense. But I do have a question for you, like going away from like application cycle, I do want to talk about the impact that you specifically had utilizing your social media. You mentioned advocacy, you mentioned mentorship. Why don't you touch upon that? Where do you see yourself utilizing social media in the future? You are building a pretty strong presence within the medical community. And I've mentioned this before. I love your content. I learned so much. And I have friends that are applying dermatology that just are so thankful for the content that you post as well. So, where do you see yourself utilizing social media in the future? Do you want to touch upon like some of the advocacy that you've been involved with as well?
Yeah, so I did a lot during med school, so I got a lot of experience where I feel pretty knowledgeable on certain things and certain medications and how it can impact certain communities. So I posted like a couple videos about like injectable prep, which was really nice because during med school I also worked on like some of the clinical trials for that as well as the HIV vaccine. So like seeing that, being able to post a video about it and not just talking about it from like a very like medical educational background, but like I'm like I got it myself, like this is my experience with it. And then getting people like messaging me that they started on injectable prep. I like dragged one of my co-residents to my PCP visit and like got him on it. So like seeing people get on prep was like really nice.
Hmm.
Um, so that's like one part. And then two, I love talking about all the paid research opportunities that you can get. I know we were talking about people having to pay people for it, but in fact, you're working like you should be getting paid for this. You have a college degree, you have multiple years of medical school education, you have a lot to offer. And I never tell any student to do an unpaid research year, to do unpaid mentorship, like or like research projects. You should always be getting paid for these. And a
Hmm.
good mentor, like I had a home program, so my home program wasn't going to pay me because I'm not moving anywhere or anything that would cause me to have to pay to do research in that regard.
Hmm.
But they were always like, these are the grants that you could apply for. There's a bunch of grants in dermatology, hematology, like whatever your specialty is, there's a bunch of grants out there for you and they would help me draft these applications. And obviously, a good mentor like is reviewing all that. It takes time and energy, but they're really investing in you. So you can imagine like that mentor will write a really strong letter of recommendation for you. They'll say the student was funded with me through this like grant, blah blah blah. So I've taken that experience, talked about online, like listing all these summer programs, these research years, so students can actually get funding and be more competitive on the application cycle.
Hmm.
Even
And
even some research programs, I remember as a third year student when I was applying for research years, some like got like 3, 4 applications, like big research fellowships that pay like $75,000, and people are doing like unpaid research years, because these organizations, like I said, aren't the best at really communicating the opportunity that's out there for them. So
No, that's such a good point. And I also want to ask you, you mentioned to me before we started that you just came back from the AAD conference, which for those of you who don't know, you should probably know about this by now with how prevalent all the videos and content we're, posting online. It's the dermatology conference. And I feel like social media had a huge impact for that conference. Do you want to talk about like what impact social media has had on the field of dermatology in general and what you've kind of noticed change? I feel like you went to last year's AED conference as well, correct? And then
yeah,
like how has it changed like since now? Because I feel like there was like a huge shift from last year.
I've been to AAD like 5 years now because I've been interested in
Wow.
derm for a while now. And honestly, every year has been insane. Um, Part of me doesn't like it. I like I have mixed feelings about it because it gives off this perception. There's like the AED and then the Society of Investigative Dermatologists, and I love the
Mhm.
SID so much more. It's
Wait,
very
tell me why.
so AED feels like this I don't know how to say it, this perception that people have about dermatology, that it's like skincare and like parties and like this glamorous like specialty. And obviously there's a lot of educational talks that are amazing, and like you got to network with a bunch of people, and there's like amazing people doing amazing work presenting there as well, so I don't want to
Mhm.
negate that. But then like 80% of AED just feels like a bunch of brands trying to get you to like promote these products to patients, and then they'll like cite clinical trials to you, but they're not really clinical trials. And they'll say like, oh yeah, this is like reaching deep into your dermis when it's like a topical cream. Like a lot of it just doesn't make sense. And they're presenting it to like physicians who do know better or should know better. That being said, I get like $5,000 worth of skincare in like 2 days, which I
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna put like the little clips up here of people literally weighing their bags of how much products that they got. And also, like, I had a friend that went to the AAD conference and she packed an extra suitcase, just like given how many like free skincare products, and they're good brands too, which is insane. I was like, be friends with someone that's going into dermatology, going to one of those conferences. But I do see what you mean. It's like almost like the surplus of there's that fine line of, okay, you are a physician or you are about to become a dermatologist. And I think there was a little bit of discourse online within the past few weeks of a physician promoting a product that, doesn't entirely align with their practice. And what's your take on, brands reaching out to physicians to promote medication? It could be ointments, treatment. What's your overall take on all of that?
Yeah, and like part of the AD, like a lot of these products are really expensive. Like I'm never going to
Mhm.
promote a $300 serum to a patient when Trendo and Azelaic acid,
Right.
I could prescribe it to them and it'll be cheaper. But there's like some good products like Vaseline is there and it's like super cheap, and that's something I would recommend.
Mhm.
Um, and in terms of the like promoting certain medications or stuff online, I think some people do it really well, and it makes sense that they would do it. Um, But there's like some other ones where I'm like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Or it doesn't really have evidence to it. Like, do I think a doctor
Mhm.
promoting a GLP-1 agonist is a bad thing? Honestly, at baseline, no, because I think GLP-1s are amazing medications. I think it's really how you present the information. And I think a lot of the discourse got lost because then I saw like people who aren't physicians being like, I knew this drug was bad. Like, look at all these doctors like coming at this person for
Mhm.
promoting this medication. And then it becomes harder for me as a physician. I'm in my intern year, so I see a lot of patients in internal medicine. And I always recommend a GLP-1 to a patient. And now there's like discourse online that we're making money off of like prescribing GLP-1s and like it's a dangerous medication, blah, blah, blah. When really that should be between like a patient and a provider. So I think that it could be like a negative side effect when people have this discourse. And now people like lose trust in the medication and like that recommendation. So I think that's where the
Right.
harm is.
And I
But
think that
mhm.
one thing that people don't really realize, and especially when you are a medical student or you're a resident making like below minimum wage, these companies offer a significant amount of money, like irrespective of the medications, brands in general, clothing brands, skincare brands, makeup brands, they offer a lot for content creators to promote their products. And I understand, like for me, for example, a good, I it's a great way to have extra income when you are a student, when you have these influencer brand deals. So I get it, but then when it's like you are a physician promoting a medication that is just like not researched enough, or just doesn't really align with your brand, you're like, you're a surgeon making a good chunk of money already. Like, what's the purpose? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's why like some people who aren't on social media kind of do judge like social media people.
Right,
Just
right,
because I always say like a surgeon can just do like one surgery and like make a lot of money, especially if they're in private practice.
right.
Like surgeons can make a lot of money. So that does leave question marks like why. But no, I honestly had a bunch of GLP-1 brands reach out to me and like because of the whole just like I am not touching the like and like you said, like one offered me $20,000 for like 6 months of like usage of like two videos.
Oh my
And
gosh.
like that's life-changing money for me, but like
Right.
I'm like, I wouldn't want to get in trouble with like my program or have discourse or have people reach out to my program because of $20,000. Because at the end of the day, $20,000 isn't worth my future dermatology salary.
No. Good point. And I think that also goes for just like posting content online. Like there is that line of professionalism. You have that duty for your patients in the future. Like even if you are a medical student and you don't have an MD next to your name, I think you are still representing the institution that you are a student, at. And I kind
Especially
of
when
lead.
I see a lot of students put their like institution on their bio or something, and I'm like, I really recommend students never to do that. Even if like,
Mm,
I mean, I could probably figure out where you go to school based on just your username.
hmm.
Unfortunately, like just having a not as common name, like people could just find out where you go. Like my name's
It's
Devin.
so easy.
There's not a lot of Devins in dermatology. You search Devin dermatology, my name will come up. Um, so that's like, but I'm like, please never put your institution there and make it easier for people to find out where you are. Or like, because then you are representing your institution when you're putting it in your bio. Like,
Mm,
and people do it for clout, like, oh, I go to Harvard, oh, I go to this school, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, is it worth it to potentially lose your spot at Harvard?
I don't
Um,
know. I think I was also advised that too. You are representing your institution, and it's not just a representation issue, it's also a safety matter too, in that regard. But I did want to ask about something that recently happened on Med Talk. I feel like everyone that is not in medicine is like focused on Mom Talk, but I'm like stuck in Med Talk right now. But there was a really famous attending actually that decided that he doesn't want to practice anymore and wants to shift over to social media. What is your take on that? And what are, I do see a lot of people and actually med students that decided to not apply the cycle and go into other fields. Like, what's your thought process on that?
I'm one of those people that I'm like, people should be able to do whatever they want.
Hmm.
However, when you put yourself on social media, you're just opening yourself up to people's views
Right.
on things. So my view is like, if you don't want to practice medicine, like, okay. However, as like a first gen student, I'm Latino, I'm queer. Like, I don't think I'm sending an inspirational message if I'm like, I did all this and now I'm going to do content creation and like do pre-med advising. Um, like I would rather, because you could do so much with your medical degree. Like it doesn't just have to be like clinical medicine. It could be a lot of different things. I think
No, that's totally true.
a lot of people don't see social media as like a respectable career. So if you do become like an orthopedic surgeon, spine surgeon, whatever it is, that's like highly respected in society, people do like question it and like why. Um, but like, I mean, there's this like other ENT surgeon who like her whole platform is like leaving medicine, blah, blah, blah. And I don't find it inspirational, so it's not content that I would engage with. Like I love seeing like super busy residents like on social media. Like a lot of them are like my friends now, and I like they're working 80 hours a week and like talking about their like jobs and like all their like trials and tribulations. And I'm like, I resonate with that. Like that's the content I want to like continue
Mhm.
like being a part of. Um, but if I see someone leave like medicine, it's like I followed you because of your medical degree. Um, so like if I like quit medicine right now, I'm like, first of all, medicine's like my job. Like I've it's been my passion my whole life. Like this
Mhm.
is my day job. I'm not quitting my day job. But if someone's like truly not happy with it, like don't do it. Like you can
Yeah.
really do anything.
No, I completely agree. And I know exactly which ENT resident you are talking about. Um, and one perspective that I do want to mention is that I feel like if you are not in the medical healthcare field, you really don't know how crazy, intense, stressful, and honestly, sometimes depressing medical training can be. And there is that system of like hierarchy set up where, a mental abuse can genuinely happen. And sometimes it can be very taxing. But again, it can be also very dissuading when your entire content is only focused around the bad sides of medicine and how medicine is this horrible, awful space. And you are correct. Like there are some influencers where I specifically follow them for their medical content because before being a social media content creator, I am a medical student. That is like my pure passion in life, similar to you. But yeah, I guess that is a good point. To each their own, honestly, to each their own. And you make a good point. You can use social media to make a huge impact on top of your medical degree. I think people don't realize that point. There's another content creator, I'll put her up here, but she like discusses how you can use your MD in avenues outside of medicine. Her name's Clara and she's incredible. But yeah, I think moving on to the
Wait,
next
is it Claire's
point.
son?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah. We went to med school together.
You did? Oh my, I did not know that. No, she's
We started in
awesome.
2020. We both did a year off. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to do a research year. Like, I think she worked for Doximity that year, like, did
Hmm.
a bunch of other things. And I like went to the NIH and I was doing like translational research. And like my other best friend who also went to Case, like, was like president of LMSA. And like, you can like three different students at the same school doing completely different things. And we all met
Exactly.
and we're all happy. Like,
No, exactly. And that's like the positive aspect, right? Like if you are leaving your medical, like the classic pathway, it may not be like, I'll put the word non-traditional at this point, to do something that is outside the realm of like what people see as like a practicing physician. I feel like, especially with how things are changing with social media, I feel like more people are going to start doing that. And I think that Claire is doing a really good job of like talking about how you can utilize an MD outside of like practice, which is so cool. That is so interesting. I did not know you guys went to med school together. That's so
yeah,
fun.
we were there for 5 years together.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I do have a question for you. Where do you see yourself utilizing social media and like residency and like when you're a full-on attending, do you still think that you're going to be posting as much as you are right now?
I mean, honestly, when I have time, I post. When I don't, like
Hmm.
I was on nights in ICU and I posted like maybe 2 videos. But when I'm on like electives or like things that are like I just get on there to talk.
It's like a FaceTime call with you.
It's
Like
literally like a
it's so
FaceTime
fun.
call.
It's so fun. It is so
Uh,
fun. And I love that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't do like the aesthetic content. I like you told me to wear nice scrubs and I was like, I
Yeah,
should not
I'm so sorry.
I was like, I'm the ugly like hospital scrubs.
No, but that is like the genuine scrubbed in vibe. No, I love it. I love it.
Um Yeah, so I think as residency gets busier, like I'll probably take lags, but if I have time and I want to like talk shit or like talk about something that I care about, I'll definitely get on and continue posting. I do want to do like an academic career, like that's my trajectory.
Mhm.
I know like a couple people that I knew as residents who are on social media, and they're faculty now at like big academic institutions, and they're still on social media. So it's like inspiring to see like it doesn't have to stop during residency. Like I can keep, and I think once I'm attending, it could even have like more value. But like I hate seeing like I don't know, like you mentioned, like attendings kind of take brand deals that don't really make sense when you're an attending because you do make a lot of money. Um, but like certain brand deals do make sense, and I think like that's fair. Like they should be able to do
Right.
that too.
Agreed.
But yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm so excited for everything that's about to come. And you said you start July 1st. Is that usually the time?
Yeah, I finish here June 15th because I end on vacation and then I'm gonna
Mhm.
like move and do all those things. And then I start
Very
July 1st.
fun. Very
Yeah.
fun. I want to shift gears a little bit because I think there is another side of this conversation that we don't talk enough about in medicine. The last time I saw you was in Chicago in person, and you were
I'm engaged.
engaged. Exciting. So how's that going? Were you going through like medical school with that partner, and is that partner in medicine too?
Yeah, we met in the hospital while I was a medical student. So I used to tell like my girlfriends because they were like, oh, like blah blah blah, I want a man, this, that, this, that, this, that. And they were like, what should I do? And I'm like, one post on social media, like I think Instagram is like the best dating app ever. Like the amount of people that just randomly will DM me. And I just like obviously don't respond because I'm taken. But um
Clarification.
yeah, but like people like do slide into the DM. So I'm like post on like social media. And then second is like I was always studying. Like as a medical student, I was very like a diligent medical student, but I would like study at the hospital or like study at med school. So like I would be in like if you're just at home, it's like gonna be really hard to like meet somebody there. So I met him at the hospital. We were doing like basic science research. So I've been with him throughout this entire time. And then we had kind of talked about getting engaged like at the end of my third year, fourth year, blah, blah, blah. So then he proposed like right after graduation because I didn't want to do anything prior to match because I was like, I have no idea where we're going to be.
Mm.
So it was like right after graduation, right before starting intern year.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, no, that's so exciting. And I feel like the conversation about like identity in medicine, especially LGBTQ plus identities, aren't talked enough about. And honestly, they're kind of brushed over, especially where I go to school. I know that we talked about being Midwest princesses, but honestly, there is definitely need for a change over here and in the South. But I'm really curious what that looked like for you personally, like going through medical training and being open about your identity and your sexuality.
so I started med school. I was closed. Like I was not closed, but I was in the closet.
If you're
I have ICU brain. So I was in the closet. I came out maybe December, January of first year of med school. And basically a lot of it happened because of representation. Like I got assigned to a community-based organ. We have this like longitudinal community-based organization thing that we have to do our first and second year of med school. I got assigned with the Cleveland Clinic LGBT Center, and then like I met the most amazing gay doctor. We worked together for like about a year or so, and then I was like, I need you to be my PCP. So then he was like, I can't be like your mentor and your PCP. So like we either have to have like one or the other relationship. And I was like, I'm okay with you being my PCP. Like I have other mentors. So he became my PCP and he's like a big reason. And then I like started talking to my current fiance, and that was also like a part of coming out. But like January, so or like March of first year, I like came out to like my med school or so. Um, and it was like fine, honestly. I think Cleveland is one of those like blue bubbles in the state of Ohio.
Mhm.
So a lot of my classmates at Case were like actually like openly gay. One of our like society deans, we have like five or six like deans who are like student advisors. Like one of them is gay. So it's just like a really nice place to like come out and like, really find my identity in terms of being gay, like and part of the community. And then being able to do like a lot of like really impactful like LGBT work at my med school and like going to New York to work on like HIV vaccine trials and going to like LA to work on like methamphetamine use, like just finding any opportunity and like mentors that really aligned with like my passions in medicine. And it actually helped me, I think, in my career because I'm like, there's not that many like gay academics and like certain
Mm.
niche topics that I'm interested in. So like once I email them, they would like I have 100% response rate from like gay attendings. Like I send them my CV. I'm like I'm really interested in academic medicine, and like all of them like are very
Mhm.
very happy to mentor me.
Oh,
So
I
I thought
love that.
yeah, it was definitely helpful in my in my career.
No, I think that it's not talked about enough, and I'm sure that, there may be a med student listening who may be wary about mentioning their identity or their sexuality or their involvement with, advocating or doing research related to LGBTQ plus work. What would you advise them to do? I know that they're, especially with research right now. What is your take on that? And what would you advise someone, applying within the next 2 years of how to mention that on their application or what they should do of like mentioning it to advisors or people that they're working with?
Yeah, we actually have this like LGBT match panel like case, and that like topic always gets brought up. And I think like everyone is pretty like unanimous now. It's like if you feel uncomfortable to tell a program that you're gay or you have a partner, or you're like the specific gender of your partner, then maybe that's like not the place you want to be for the next 3 to 7 years of your life.
Mm,
I think certain specialties are definitely more conservative than others. Like dermatology, like there's plenty of gay men in dermatology. Ortho can be like a little conservative depending on where you go, but there
mhm.
was a gay med student from Case who matched ortho and is like out and proud, has like a husband too, who's in ophtho. So I just had like a lot of people to look up to who had like went through the process already and like came out like really fine in the end. Um, I think in derm, even though there's a lot of gay dermatologists, it can be like because the admissions committee is usually a little bit older, um, and there's usually not a lot of gay people on the admissions committee. So I had people who like questioned my work in like HIV medicine and like why I want to do dermatology if a lot of my work is in that field. But I had like good answers to it. But I think like if there was like gay people in the room, I think it would just I wouldn't have to like explain it. So I do think there is some like homophobia, like even if it's implicit, and not as explicit, maybe in like other specialties. Um, but yeah, I would tell people like definitely like be out and proud. Like if that's my CV would be very bare bones if I had to like hide a bunch of things. And I want it to be somewhere where one, there's like other gay residents, there's like a gay like house staff organization. So those are things I looked into like before even applying to institutions.
That's amazing that your like home institution has a panel to help, people that are part of the LGBTQ plus community. I think that would be great to start at my institution. I don't even know if we have one.
Yeah, there was like 26 gay people in my class. It was like a large percentage.
Wow.
It was like a decent percentage. So
And I think
um
the more representation, the better. And I think that honestly helps people like be more encouraged about being more open. But again, you do make a really good point of if you, and this applies to everyone, honestly. I feel like if you don't feel like you would be accepted in an institution, why would you want to be miserable there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, depending on what specialty you're doing? That is so true.
yeah, like there's
Um,
like residency programs that you can clearly tell it's like a bros club or a boys club. And I'm like, I would not want my friend to be miserable there when they like
mhm,
clearly like, hate women or like they're clearly homophobic or they clearly have some sort of like bias, even if it's like a great reputable name brand program. Like residency is really, really hard. And like
mhm.
my intern year, I'm so happy. Like people have been like, you like the happiest that you ever been. And like I genuinely feel that because I'm in such a supportive environment. So I can't imagine having to like not be myself, like while working
Right.
80 plus hours a week. So I definitely just recommend people to be as authentic as they are, and that's like generally the message I try to get across.
I love that. Okay, Devin, we're going to play a game. It's
Okay.
going to be defend it. So I'm going to say a statement, and then you're going to have to say agree, disagree, or it's complicated.
Okay.
So, for
Probably all
example,
complicated.
yeah. Um, okay, the first one is programs definitely look at your social media, even if they say they don't.
I think they do. I think once you're in the rank to match part, they're definitely looking very closely into you. And not just your social media, but they're like calling people to like find out about you.
Oh,
Yeah.
calling people within your program or calling people?
Like let's say you have a letter writer that they know, they'll shoot them a
Mm,
text, they'll shoot them an email, or they'll call them, depending on how close they are. So like people are talking, like it's especially in the smaller specialties, like people are like talking about you. a lot during the year.
Good point. Okay. Medical influencers should be held to higher standards than regular influencers.
Um, I mean, I think okay, I'm gonna say it's complicated. I'm gonna tell you why. I
Good.
yes, like we should have high standards just because we're in medicine, but at the end of the day, we're like people.
Mhm.
As long as I'm not harming people, I think I should be able to like post what I want.
I agree. I agree. What this is not part of the game. This is just like open conversation between us. What was your take on the student that was posting content humor purpose wise in his eyes? What
Mhm.
was your take on that? And I think that also touches upon like professionalism and the standard that you should be holding for yourself as a medical trainee. What was your overall take on that and the outcome of that situation?
I think, and I try to like hold myself to the standard too, is I don't like to talk about, and we mentioned like medicine is a hierarchy. So I rarely ever talk about medical students. I'll either talk about attendings or other residents, just because there is a power dynamic differential there. So I think when a bunch of attending physicians, even though they may have like good points, I think it's weird to see like a bunch of attendings attack a medical student. Like even I think residents, we're like the same age at a certain point. Like there's like med students who are older than me, so I think that's a little more like acceptable. Um, but that goes back to the point where it's like if you're posting something, you better be okay with like your dean of your medical school seeing it. Um, and you should be proud of everything that you post.
Mhm.
You should have people like you should have friends that would be like, "Hey, this is a crazy post."
Agreed.
Uh,
Agreed.
do I? And it's just hard because it clearly lacks like some insight to like this is not an appropriate thing to post, like given the war on women's bodies and like misogyny in medicine, like even in present day. So it can be jokes to like Gen Z. Like I think Gen Z and like there's a big generational divide between like
Mhm.
some attendings and Gen Z and what Gen Z's find funny. Like I saw some of his videos before and I thought they were funny. Like the one with the headphones,
Right.
like that one.
The drama one. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
agreed. Agreed. It's like content that you can relate to, but then when it came to the post about women's
Yeah.
bodies and that was
And I
just
think some
inappropriate.
people like have the argument that it's like posts, like rank lists are due, and then he decided to make the
I
content.
know.
Um, and I like tell everyone this, like, it's not just what you post on social media, it's like what you do in real life. Like there's a
Yeah.
bunch of people who do crazy things in real life. And I have a story from someone who went to my med school, like way before me, but like while I was deciding what med school to go to, I like Googled Case Western and then I found this like legal document. And basically he got his MD revoked during his intern year because of something that he did during med school. So I'm like, it's not just what you post on social media. Like he basically got a DUI, didn't disclose it to the medical school, and you're supposed to disclose any misdemeanor or felony to your medical school. Basically, later he calls the program director where he matched, and then um the program director reaches out to Case and is like, "Hey, you didn't mention that the student has a misdemeanor for DUI on your MSPE letter." And the Case is like, "We did not know that." So that's how, and then they basically like was like, you can kick out of med school or we're gonna have to kick you out. He decides to sue them. He actually wins, and then Case then like I don't know, they take it to a higher court, and then he like 8 months into interior, basically where I'm at, they revoke his MD and he can no longer practice medicine.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. Oh
So
my
I think like
gosh.
any student, like don't feel too comfortable because you either matched or you graduated. Like, don't be stupid. Like
Hmm. And this goes for anyone. Your digital footprint is genuinely there forever. If you think it's not going to impact you, it may bite you in the butt later on.
there
No,
was like
that
that
is
one resident who was like screaming at an Uber driver or something, and then she got caught on film or something. And then basically everybody emailed her program and it's like, this is your resident. Um, so it's like you back to this like higher standard that people in medicine have. I don't even think it's a higher standard. Like if I wasn't in medicine, I wouldn't be screaming at people. I wouldn't be drinking and
right.
driving. Like I think those are like really reckless things and like
Hmm.
shows that you're like maybe a mean person. But back to this like student, I've heard a lot of good things from him from like students at Mayo Clinic. So maybe like his posts weren't like actually representative of like how he is as a real person. And
Mm.
I think there is like a divide there, whereas like people don't really know you based on what you post. But to that, you should just have some insight and like, hey, this is probably not going to be received well by the
Right.
general medical community.
Right. I think that it can also cloud your judgment when you have such a large presence online and people are, maybe like 90% are like, oh my God, this is so funny, haha, and you get millions of likes. That clouds your judgment when that 10% who is saying, like, hey, this is not appropriate, you're just like, ah, it's only 10%. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, very, very true. Okay, next question. You can be a great doctor and a full-time influencer.
I'm gonna I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna tell you why. I think to do full-time content creation, like 40 hours a week of it, is like really, really hard if you
Mhm.
have to do like, because if you're a full-time doctor, even attendings are working like 60 hours a week. Um, so to work like both of those at your full capacity, it's really, really challenging. Like every time I'm doing social media, I'm not studying.
Right.
Which is just the truth. But I think people should be allowed to like do whatever they want on their free time. Like I think it's this very capitalistic thing that I should be studying all the time that I want to. I think people can be really good doctors and part-time content creators, but I think it's really, really challenging to do both. And if people can do both and are really good at it, like I'm super impressed because I'm not one of those people. I can only, like I said, when I'm on like an 80 plus hour work week, I can't create content. It's just impossible. Um, so I'm gonna say no.
No, I agree with you. There's a reason why I have not posted an episode in a while is literally because I'm on my surgery rotation and I'm literally just a med student. Imagine how busy residents and surgeons and just it is taxing. And I think maybe the definition of like what a full-time influencer is like definitely, I don't know if that could apply to medicine at this moment, but no, I agree with you on that.
No,
Okay,
like my
next.
friend. Oh, I was gonna say one of my good friends in Chicago. Her name's Mercedes. She does like everything, and I'm like super impressed. She's like a content creator. I think she calls herself part-time content creator too, but she's like doing that. She just got like hired as like a Pilates instructor, as
Oh,
a
love
nurse,
it.
like works two different nursing jobs. And that's like one of those people who are like, I don't know how you like sleep because
I don't know either. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay, last question of this game is posting during medical training, especially residency, can hurt your reputation amongst patients and the people that you work with. This kind of
I'm
touches on that Mayo
I'm gonna
Clinic
say
student.
no. Honestly, I get a bunch of DMs from like particularly gay men. They're like, "Oh my God, are you taking patients? Like, I want to be your patient." Like, blah blah. And I'm like, maybe in three 3 years. But even like talking about like HIV prep, blah blah blah, like getting people to get on that is rewarding. So I think in terms of like the patients that I do want to serve, I think it's like been positive.
Mhm.
And then in terms of my colleagues, like I had so many like people come up to me at AD and they were like, I love your content, blah blah blah. And these are like people at academic programs. Do I think some people aren't gonna like it? Yeah, of course. And they probably were gonna like me anyways.
Yeah. Again, it also goes on like what exactly you are posting online. I feel like that is very telling. And a good portion of your content is very informative and also just honest and shows that you're like a real person too, which I think is important too. Oh my gosh, there's just so much to unravel with social media. I feel like it's so like multidimensional. And I think it also brings up like the topic of like AI in medicine, and that can be like its own episode in general. But where do you, once you're done with medical training, you mentioned that you wanted to go into academic medicine. Where do you see like social media, AI, and everything like helping your field specifically?
I think Derm is very social media friendly.
Mhm.
Like so many residents in Durham are on social media. And then also the residency program, like every Durham residency program has a social media page to try to recruit
That's so true.
people. So I think they're like really pro it. And I think it's just one of those things where you can like teach a lot of people and like kind of show the culture at your program. So people that are really good at it do a really good job. And then there's obviously some programs that don't do good of a job, and I think they would like a resident who can be good on social media.
Right.
Like my intern year like asked me for help with social media, and my like co-intern Nikki, she also like does a lot of social media, and they like had her do like certain videos too. So I think it could like my like PD loves it. My like chiefs have reached out to me for help. So I think it can help you like, gain some like brownie points
Mm,
because you're kind of doing free work for them.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Oh my gosh, we definitely had so much to talk about because we went overtime,
Oh my
Devin,
God.
but I know.
Yeah.
No, but it is such an important topic, especially given this past month of how much was going online and within the conversation of social media and medicine. We had so much to talk about. And again, this is a very important conversation. I think we're all trying to figure it out in real time. And I think conversations like the ones that we just had is kind of how we move forward and how we address like different issues and how to, I think institutions need to potentially develop like a framework of how we as medical trainees and attendings physicians address social media within our practice. But Devin, where can people find you? And if so, can people reach out if they want to ask questions?
Yeah, my TikTok is Devin MD, and then my email is there, which is literally my first and last name at gmail.com. Um,
Perfect.
and
Yeah.
then I'm also on Instagram, Devin Barzalo MD, I think, or something. And then people can always reach out. I'm really slow at responding, but I usually try to get back to everyone. I feel bad sometimes I'll like respond 3 weeks later.
He's
But
a
whenever,
busy guy. Like he's busy. But I mean, but again, 3 weeks
yeah.
and your advice is amazing.
And then to your point, I think schools and programs do need to do a better job in realizing that students are going to be on social media. And I was talking to one of my faculty mentors from med school like this past week too. And I kind of like spilled some of like what we talked about here.
Hmm.
He's like, I need to talk to the med students and the residents about social media and like the implications that it can have, like negative wise, and like how to
Mm,
avoid that and like still be like a, productive member of society on social media.
great.
Because we're going to be on it regardless.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we have to acknowledge at this point in time is that social media, AI, et cetera, are going to exist no matter what. And it's like our job to
It,
adapt to the changes that are going on. But yeah, oh my gosh. No, Devin, thank you so much for being on the episode today. I know that you've been so busy. Devin's about to start nights and he still made the time to be on today's episode. So thank you so much. And thank you for all that you do. And as always, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Scrubbed In and stay tuned for more. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Scrubbed In on social media and medicine. If you want to help support and follow along with our journey, give us a follow on Instagram at scrubbedin_ty and also follow our TikTok to stay up to date with any upcoming events that we have going on and for new podcast releases. Thank you.